Good morning. Welcome to Much Ado About Something. I'm Donna, and this morning I'm just sitting here out here on the porch enjoying this beautiful morning. It is truly a beautiful morning this morning. It's not too hot, it's cool. The birds are singing. Of course, I'm in a development, so there's a lot of noises going on in the development. There's some workers up here, up the street, so I can hear their heavy equipment. I hope that you don't hear it too much. And of course, there's a lot of traffic and things that go on in the city. But it's still a beautiful morning. It feels good and the birds are singing. And I thought I would just get out here this morning and assess this garden and see what needs to be done, see what I need to work on. And I still have some amendments that I can work in, and that's a lot of pretty intense labor. The children are coming, my grandchildren are coming later in the day, so I can't exert all of my energy on the garden this morning. I'll have to save some of that for the kids. But I wanted to get out here and just at least make a list to see what I needed to do. You know, gardening is an ongoing project. There's always something that needs to be done, and there's things that you have to keep up on. It's kind of changing every day. It's an everyday changing thing. There's something that's blooming a little more, or something that's just now starting to bud out. There's deadheading of things that have already, they're past their prime, they've already bloomed, and it's time to clean them up and move on. And you won't know all these things that need to be done unless you just get out and access your garden and see, well, what do I need to do to this today? So that's what I'm doing this morning. There are definitely weeds that have to be dealt with in this garden. This is the garden that I didn't get weeded. And there are things that cannot stay, like this redbud little sapling here that's come off of one of these redbud trees. That definitely has got to get out of this garden. And then there's many other weeds in here that I'll have to get in here and pull these things up. I try to deadhead the flowers. It keeps them looking fresher longer, keeps their blooms and everything looking prettier. So I try to get out here and do that. These are the foxgloves. And they have really been a pretty addition to this garden this year. They just bloom all the way up their stalk. And here is a little patch of them that has a weed that's just made its home right in the middle of them. This one has a little more blooming that it can do. Up here at the top are some more blooms. I just love the way this foxglove looks. I love the shape of it, the interest that it adds to the garden. I just think they're so pretty. They're pretty close up and they're pretty from a distance. Next year, I think I'm gonna be more strategic about where I place them. I just placed them randomly in 2 years back. This is their second year, and they bloomed this year. But next year, I may spread them out more strategically in this garden so that they'll have more impact. Look at this. I have hairy vetch that I added in this garden. I've added it in a lot of my gardens just to enrich the soil, you know. And it's this little vine, and it seeds itself. And look at that when the seed pod gets dry. Look at that interesting shape on that. It looks like almost like an insect, doesn't it? But I love little interesting things like this in the garden. You know, not everything having to be spectacular in certain plants or blooms. I like to add interesting different things so that when you come out here, it's a delight the Echinacea will probably be the next thing that will come out in bloom, and I'll be able to share those blooms with you. It's a wonderful, wonderful healing herb, a wonderful herb to use in teas and tinctures and such, and it's famous for helping prevent colds and flu and things like that. It's really good for the immunity. Here's one that I moved, but I love these. I think these are just the regular purple Echinacea. Quite a few of those spread throughout the garden. And here we have some milkweed. It's the orange milkweed that attracts the monarch butterfly, and it's coming up, and it has some buds on it. Donald loves this. This is one of his favorite flowers. This one has a beautiful orange bloom on it. And here's that light lavender clematis that I haven't shown you in a while. It doesn't have any blooms on it. I don't know if it will this year or not, but it is still, it was a little feature that I had right here at this corner part of this flower bed. And right here at this stone wall, this light lavender clematis is a little feature that I had. I kind of let it trail in there rather than trellising it up tall. And it is really pretty. I hope that blooms soon and I can share it with you. This is what I found in the morning, this morning. That's a little egg. Some bird has hatched somewhere, and this is its little eggshell that's left behind. Lots of life and activity in the garden. I still have these beautiful amaryllis or lilies. I'm not sure. They remind me of an amaryllis. They have the 4 stalks. And if you've watched a previous video, you know I bought these years ago from a lady that was just having a sale outside of her house up the road that was very close to us. And at one point, I had my whole garden filled with these out front. I had 2 solid beds just filled with these, and they were beautiful whenever they bloomed. When they bloom in mass, they're just beautiful. And I did dig all of those up and put them in 5-gallon buckets, and I gave those to friends and family. And I just kept this little patch here. I love the leaves. And the reason I did that is when these bloom in mass, they are truly beautiful. But I wanted to add variety to my garden. And one of the things that I wanted to happen in my garden was to have something blooming, you know, every week of the year, every week of the gardening season. I wanted to have something blooming, not just feature one thing. I wanted, as one flower faded out and had its glory, to enjoy another flower that would come in and add its beauty. And my little cottage garden style, where everything's kind of nestled in together, I do that in an effort to save water and to give interest and support. You see the ranunculus, they're finished blooming. That was the first year that I had grown those. My daughter gave them to me and I thoroughly enjoyed them. And then the peonies, they're blooming. They've been blooming for quite a while. These light-colored ones, they are the first to bloom of the peonies in the garden. And then there are also the dark pink ones that are nestled right over there in the garden. I'll get a close-up of those to show you. Our little potted flower in our containers are doing good. And there's a little leaf watering trough, a little watering container for the birds, the butterflies, and even rabbits. I saw a little baby rabbit out here helping himself to some water from that tray, from that leaf tray that a friend made me and gave me to add to my garden. What I didn't put in a pot of the bleeding heart is blooming. And I love that little plant. That is a shade-loving plant. And so is this fern. You can see this fern is burned up. I planted this coleus here beside of it because I love the coleus. I love the bright lime green and the dark accent color that's in the middle of that leaf on this particular coleus. But I planted it right here near this fern in hopes that it would give it some shade. But I'll probably have to dig that fern up and move it. As the garden moves, as it changes with the, you know, when you trim trees, cut down trees, then you're, you know, there goes your shade. Or here suddenly comes full sun. Or maybe something grew more and now shade something that required full sun. It's an ongoing assessment as to what should be and where it should be placed. That clematis vine it is starting to go up its trellis. It's starting to be obedient and do what it needs to do to climb up that trellis. This one still has not bloomed. It's taken its time blooming. And my dish pan of dishes that I never did get the Elysium that has the white bloom planted because this moss that I have a lot of around, and that's an heirloom moss that comes from my family's land, and I'm not sure what that is, but I know that it's very, very old. It's been around as long as I can remember in my gardening days. But I just left the yellow instead of planting the white this year. So I have yellow suds in that bucket of suds this year. And this little daisy decided it would just pop up right beside of it, and so that is fine. And the daisies, they're just something else. Can you get any prettier? That is a simple and pretty flower. And it's right here at the point of this garden, the stone garden, when it comes around. You see the stones make a shape, and it's just right here in the forefront. I do have some work to do right over here in this area, right over here. Donald did dig up, if you saw some of our previous videos, you saw him dig up these some shoots of the elderberry that came off of this big elderberry bush that we have right here, which we're looking forward to getting some blooms and some berries off of that elderberry bush this year. This is the third year that it's been here, and we did get quite a harvest off of it last year. So we're looking forward to harvesting off of it this year, and that's the reason we haven't moved that bush. But it is having more shoots off of it, and we're digging those up and repotting them. And we're going to put a line of them down across the chicken pen because they're good antibiotics for the chickens, and they love to eat them, and that grows so prolific, it'll just grow up the side of the fence, and they can just nip through the fence, their chicken pen, and eat those when they want, when they like. And here's that clematis that's here under the snowball bush. The snowball bush is spent. Here's its dried flowers. I'll get out here and clip some of these off, either pinch them off or clip them off. And now just enjoy that beautiful leaf. Enjoy its beautiful greenery. See, this bloomed for maybe 2 weeks, and it was beautiful when it bloomed, this snowball bush. But its blooming days are over for this season. So I'm just going to take these spent blooms off of it and enjoy the greenery that's on it. And this clematis is just growing right up under here, enjoying its little secret hiding place here. Now, you remember that bird bath that I loved that was sitting right here? I moved that bird bath, this metal bird bath that's sitting right here. What I'm going to do is replace it with this heavy concrete one. I had this heavy concrete bird bath outside. I've moved it to the top, still in the wheelbarrow. I had it in the backyard and it's in 2 pieces. And I like, you know, when Madeline is playing there in the backyard, I don't like to think of her maybe trying to climb or pull on this thing and it falling on her. It's really heavy. So I'm just going to tuck it away over here where that metal bird bath was, and not have to worry about, you know, the kids getting to it. They don't get here in this section of the garden very much. But I'll give you a shot of those pretty solid pink peonies. A little darker than the peonies that are over beside the porch. This is this clematis. It's a little drier up under here. And so I think that one struggles a little bit more, that clematis. The potted plants are doing really good. The containers that we planted some of these plants in, they're doing really good. Having to water these every day. But I like the way they look. And this begonia, if I ever see these for sale, I'm going to pick up some. I picked these up from a friend that was she was just selling some of her plants. And I bought a small little start of this for $2. And I put it in this container. And I have loved this thing. It just comes back every year and fuller, and I love the leaf on it. And I know it's some type of begonia. But I am definitely, if I find any more of these, going to pick up more of these. Love the leaf and the look of that. I did root a piece of it here into this container, and I think I'm just going to take some and root what I can of them without hurting the plant. And then here I have a crepe myrtle that I've rooted off of our crepe myrtle here in the corner. It's just a dark pink crepe myrtle, and it's doing well, and I'll have to think of some place to put that. I do have a problem in my garden and outside in the backyard, and I'm going to take you out there and show it to you here in just a minute. But what I'm going to do first is mix up my remedy for this problem. This is sugar that I'm putting in here. So I'm going to put 4 tablespoons of sugar to each one of these cups. Now in this cup I have borax. Borax is something that people use in laundry, and you can find it in the laundry section of most stores. Now I have 4 tablespoons of sugar in each one of these, and I'm going to put 2 tablespoons of borax. I've saw this being mixed. You can do it 1-on-1, you know, equal amounts of sugar and equal amounts of borax. But I'm going to, I am not going to do equal parts, because I have a friend that has a greenhouse, and when he has ant problems in his plants that get in the bottom of his plants, he just does 2 parts sugar to 1 part borax, and that works for him, and that's his business, is to raise and sell plants. So I'm definitely going to just go ahead and take a cue from him and just use 2 parts sugar to 1 part of borax. Now I'm using this stirrer that I'm going to throw away when I get finished with these, and I'm going to throw away these cups when this is finished, because I don't want, you know, anybody to get a hold of this poison. And I'm just going to add just enough water to make this kind of granularly, to make it easy for the ants to carry back to their nest. If you make it too liquidy, the ants will just eat it and die. But you want them to be able to get up some and take it back to their nest so that they can kill the nest when they start causing damage. Now, a lot of people don't want to kill ants and stuff, but I'm telling you, when pests start causing damage to your livelihood, like my friend's case, he's growing plants to sell, and he can't sell a plant that's full of ants. So he has to take action. Now I'm going to take you out here and show you what I'm going to do. I just mixed a little bit of water, enough water to make it kind of granularly. I have a few chunks, so let me get those mixed up good. Now I'm going to take these out here and put them where they need to go. Now I have other life out here that I don't want to get a hold of this poisonous mixture that I've made for these ants. There's 2 parts of sugar to 1 part of borax. This is going to be enclosed in this container I have. I have this container out here, and every year I put the cushions that go on the lawn furniture in this container. Well, I opened this container to get the cushions out, and let me show you what I found. This is what's all over my cushions. This is what is ants that have nested here. Well, I've got it propped open, and I'm just going to set these down in here. And I'm hoping that they'll crawl in there and feast on this easy remedy that I've made for them. And I'm just going to close that back up and just let it do its work. I wanted to share with you the blueberries. We may get some this year. We struggle with these blueberries. The birds just get to them before we do. They get to them as soon as they're ripe. Of course, you can get netting to go over them. But we haven't done that yet. We haven't got any netting to go over it. But we're hoping to get a harvest of blueberries this year. We have 2 other kinds of blueberries here too that bloom at different times of the season. And the goal here is just to have, you know, a season, one that they'll bloom in succession, one after the other. Though this one does have some blueberries on it now. I think this is the rabbit eye blueberries. But we're looking forward to maybe being able to get a few blueberries. I've got all of these bedding plants that I started. And the vegetable garden will be going in very soon, probably this weekend. And I'd like to share that with you. Well, thank you for joining me today. And like always, until next time.